Hey everyone, welcome to another video. If this is your first time joining me, I hope that you'll have a nice time and that you'll enjoy this video and maybe consider watching any of the other ones I have if you enjoy my work. And if you are a viewer who's been with me for a little while, I hope you are well, and I haven't spoken to you guys in a little while because I have been on holiday. My boyfriend and I went to Corsica, a French island in the Mediterranean Sea, together at the end of June, and we had the most amazing weather. We did absolutely nothing. We just ate great food and swam in the sea, and I found seashells and I got stung by jellyfish, and it was absolute perfection and exactly what we both needed. I was definitely burning myself out quite severely before we left, and I can definitely feel a difference now that we're back. I have so much more energy, I am so much happier, and I'm just generally quite excited to start working again. So that holiday was very much needed and exactly what we were looking for. We did come back a couple of weeks ago. We came back at the very end of June, but I have been working quite hard on a course that I was commissioned to put together by STRATHMORE for their website. I'll put a link down below to all the information if you would like to check it out more in depth. I will have a 4-part gouache course coming out in September with them, so keep an eye out for that. I'm working really hard on it and I'm really happy with it so far, so I hope that it can be useful to some of you. It's all free to access, so if you want more information, it'll be down in the description below. But this week I have a tiny bit more time to put a video together, and I did want to share this particular painting with you for a little while because it's very dear to my heart and I'm really happy with it. So I thought I'd do a video for this week because I hadn't spoken to you guys in too long. So the painting in this video is titled Unravelling, and those of you who've been with me for a little while might recognize this concept as a drawing I did during my 2018 Inktober series. I remember exploring it more as a sketch back then because I liked the idea, but I wasn't entirely sure how I wanted to put it together. And when I drew it back in 2018, I remember thinking that I also really wanted to actually paint it at some point. Just to quickly let you know, if you are interested in knowing the details of how I painted this piece, exactly what I used and how I went about it and all that kind of thing, I have a really detailed process video up on my Patreon. The link to my Patreon page is in the description below, and if you're interested in getting a print of it, it's up on my shop and available, so that will also be in the description down below. So this painting in this video is not actually the fully finished piece of this concept. I think this is, as much as this is a painting in its own right, it's still for me an exploration of the concept, and I think at some point I will want to do a much bigger painting with a slightly more complicated composition, exploring that idea. I do say that about a lot of my paintings though, so I wouldn't hold my breath if I were you, because I don't have the best track record when it comes to actually revisiting a concept that I've said I would revisit. It's not by, you know, laziness, it's purely because I just keep getting new ideas and then I get bored with my old ideas, and then I get drowned under all the concepts that I would like to revisit one day, and it's the mess. But I would genuinely mean it when I say that I would very much like to revisit this concept as a fuller painting at some point, one day, maybe, perhaps, if it happens. Doing the voiceover for this video is actually reminding me of how I was feeling when I painted this piece, and I love doing this with especially my paintings, looking back at them quite a few weeks or even months later and actually realizing that they were so representative of how I was feeling at the time. So it might be something that I felt at the time was a fun concept that I would really like to explore because I think that visually it's quite striking, but really, if I really look into it, it's also very much an echo of my state of mind, and it's always very interesting because I'm not necessarily aware of that state of mind at the time of painting. Looking back on my own work sometime later is always really introspective and quite reflective, and I always learn more things about myself, which I find always really interesting because it's not something I go into consciously when I actually start painting a piece. It's afterwards, after the fact, that I realized that it was coming from something in me. And this particular piece is obviously representative of the fact that I was burning out, that I was quite literally unraveling and just exhausted and stressed and anxious and just generally kind of breaking down a little bit. However, like most of my work, I don't want to represent just the negative. I'm not interested in representing purely just pain, purely just turmoil and difficulties and chaos. I want to represent what I think is basically inside every experience. There's this kind of very tightly bound knot of negatives and positive in pretty much everything that we experience, more or less, and I kind of want to represent that subtlety of emotions and of experiences in my pieces. And in this particular piece, it represents obviously breaking down and literally just losing the very fiber of your being and everything kind of unraveling around you and inside of you, which is a process that is very difficult and very traumatic, and there's a lot of turmoil, and it's something that I think we all go through at one point or another in our life, and it's an experience that is very difficult to go through. But I don't want that to just be the perspective of this painting. I also wanted the painting to be a representation of the good that can come from that, of the fact that if you look at yourself in that state of turmoil, and if you manage to analyze why you're going through this and what in you is changing and how it's changing, and if you're able to identify how you can get yourself out of that and how you can rebuild yourself from those ashes, then I think a lot of good can come out of it. And sometimes we just need that kind of death and rebirth kind of phenomenon inside of us, where we have to let go of some parts of us, even if it's difficult for us to do so, even if it's not what feels right at that point in time. Sometimes we don't even have a choice. Sometimes things happen in our life where we just have to leave some parts of ourselves behind. But then, you know, if you choose to keep going, and if you choose to keep looking at yourself, and if you choose to keep building on yourself, then you are giving yourself the chance to rebuild yourself, the chance to have new starting blocks, to have a fresher you, a newer you, a you with more experience, a you with more knowledge, a you with more strength. And I think this is what this piece to me kind of represents. It was the catharsis of being destroyed and rebuilding yourself. It's always difficult for me to express exactly what a piece means, because it comes both from a place of pain and turmoil, obviously, of difficulties, but it also comes from usually a fascination for the fact that life is just this, it's pain and turmoil and then rebirth, and then this constant cycle of being unraveled and being destroyed and then coming back up and then living again and becoming anew. So yeah, this piece is important to me, and the painting process of it felt cathartic in itself. Usually paintings are quite difficult for me to put together and there's a lot of emotions attached to them, but this one really flowed out of me and really worked, and I experimented a little bit with it. I was trying to be less stiff and less controlled and have just let my paint do its thing, but I also added tiny detail that I could go into automatic mode while I was painting them. So it was just a good combination of different elements, and I was very happy with how the piece actually came out. A lot of people have said that the character in the painting looks like me, which I find quite funny because I didn't use myself as reference for it, but I can definitely see it, which is always quite fun. I remember there was this art versus artist thing going around on Instagram at some point where people wanted to figure out if their art looked like them, because it's often a thing with art where you kind of unconsciously draw yourself, and so it's definitely apparent in that one. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this painting. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will have a bunch more videos coming in the next few weeks, including a vlog and a variety of different topics I want to talk about. Just so you know, my uploads might not be quite as frequent. I want to put together some videos that require a bit more time, and I've realized recently that I am putting a lot more work and a lot more time in a lot of things that aren't making making art, and I'm feeling really sad about that, and I really want to go back to making more art and kind of putting all the other things to the service of me making art rather than the other way around. So I might not be uploading quite as regularly. If you do want to keep up to date with my uploads, I strongly recommend turning on notifications. It's clicking the little bell next to the subscribe button underneath this video. That way you get notified every time I upload. I also recommend turning on notification in your YouTube app on whatever device you watch YouTube on. That way you get a notification as soon as I upload and you don't miss any of my videos. In the meantime, I hope that you are all really well. I'd love to hear how your summer is going, how you are feeling, how you interpreted the piece in this video, everything and anything. I always love hearing from you all. Do know that I do read every single comment, and I truly appreciate every single one of you for taking the time to be really supportive and lovely and everything. You really make everything so much nicer and just generally very enjoyable for me to keep up with. So thank you very much for being you. Thank you for everything, and have a lovely week, and I'll see you very soon. Bye everyone.